Okay, welcome back. Module 9, Lesson 4, the very last lesson before we start month by month training and inventing the future meetings for you and your team. So, this is the youth meeting of the future. So, I want you to just dream a little bit. Now, the youth meeting of the future is not like a youth group meeting. As I mentioned to you earlier, I'm hoping that you've moved your weekly youth gathering to a weekend church service. So you call it church with a young flair kind of a thing. We're not a group anymore. We're not a youth group. We're part of the church. Remember, I mentioned that after the big epic event number one, moving it, you want to have it in a larger venue. I would encourage you to have it in the main church facility. Begin planning now for that reality. And so I would just encourage you to think about, as I mentioned before, senior pastor and your training and your planning as you're thinking about the whole year of sermons that you're going to do for the adults. So now you're screening. Part of your screening mechanism is going, okay, this is for the adults and the people that are going to be adults in just a couple years, right? And so they're already arguably maybe doing more in-depth seeking of the Lord than a lot of the adults are. A lot of the adults are spectators. They just are. They come Sunday morning, they think that's all they need. They don't read their Bible very much and all that. I mean, if you just look at Barna and all the different data that's out there. So don't despise them just because they're young, right? They might be actually more serious and more mature than some of the people that have been around for a while. So I would encourage you to think about what you're going to preach on, and then those same topics being applicable, like how does that work for the part of my church that's 13 to 23, that age group, and what the principles that I'm sharing, how can they be applied to that age group? And I'd encourage you, have courage. Listen, if they know you love them, they will listen to you. You don't have to be like them. We spent too much, and part of the new paradigm is, instead of, we've had too much, the old paradigm was try to find a cool guy that's sort of trying to be like a 16-year-old. Listen, they don't need someone that's trying to be like them. They need someone that they want to be like. Not because of what they see out here, because they hear what's inside here. And I remember, you may have heard me say this story, but Bishop Apoku, that did dramatic transformation in Ghana with the young people there. He had a whole denomination that he started, had 1 million people, and in 10 years it went to 2 million people, and 750,000 of them were young. He started when he was 50, leading that denomination, Pentecostal Church of Ghana, and led it for 10 years. So he created an environment where he trained his pastors to love young people. They got rid of cultural things in their church that were hindrances. He said to his, the elders in the whole denomination, pastors across the country in Ghana, why can't we wear jeans in church? Why can't we have this kind of music? And, it's not in our bylaws, not in the Bible. Why are we so, insistent on this? Got some people mad. Ultimately, though, young people started feeling warmed and welcomed. And as I said, they went from 1 million to 2 million people. Churches overflooded with young people. I mean, imagine that kind of growth. Well, the reason I tell you that story, he told me, Ron, the most moving thing is when a young person comes up and grabs my arm, a young person I've never met before, and looks at me in the eyes and says, Bishop Apoku, thank you for loving us. And I thought, isn't that interesting? Here's a young person who's never met him, but they can tell by the structure that's been set up that the senior leader of the whole denomination loves them. And so I think that's part of the opportunity as a pastor. You're kind of presiding over this whole Project 13 and becoming an exponential church. And I would encourage you to get FaceTime with your young people each week. And the structure of that service, I would say the content could be the same, but the structure might be a little bit different. Want to have worship, but maybe do a little bit different style of worship, a different worship band, maybe a youth band that does worship each week for that crowd. maybe your 9 o'clock service is for young people and 11 o'clock is for traditional. You can then reserve that 11 o'clock hour for small group meetings, for the connect group meetings while the adults are in the main service, so that you can double purpose it. So you have great worship, but you might want to roll in some videos. Some people have done it like this, where they start out even before worship with a cliffhanger question. Don't bring resolve to it, like a cliffhanger question. What would you do if da 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 da? Think about that question. In fact, before we even have worship, why don't you break into a small group? Just any random small group is okay, and discuss that question. What would you do if? And you describe maybe a moral dilemma or some scriptural principle that you're going to talk about later, but you're getting them to discuss. They all want to discuss it, and of course we know the more they discuss, the more they internalize. And then you have worship, come back with the message. Maybe it's a little bit more interactive with a video clip or a story or a PowerPoint, that kind of thing. And then have a ministry time, just like you would in a normal church service, but then leave time at the end before they are dismissed. Say, hey, why don't you break up into groups real quick and just discuss, and have connect group leaders lead these kind of discussions. What you heard this morning and what the Lord spoke to you and what you want to do with it. And so you're getting them used to small groups, then they dismiss, and then you can have the regular meeting with the adults in the church, and then let them go on to their connect group meetings where they're discussing what connect groups discuss, the content they've been learning all week. So anyways, there's some thoughts for you to be helping you prepare for after the first Epic event.